it's that time of the week again for Sterlo's wrap-up and just the 2 games of sudden death footy to go through. But Peter Sterling, great to see you. Geez, we were given a treat, weren't we? 2 matches, 2 one-point nail bites.
It was good fun, wasn't it? Very exciting, very entertaining. And if you throw in a one-pointer Melbourne the week before, we've had 6 games with 3 one-point results. Doesn't get a whole lot better than that. And look, who knows, coming into this weekend, we might see something similar.
Yeah, Friday night, speaking of seeing something similar, 16 times this season the Panthers have been behind by 10 points or more. 8 of those leading into this game, they'd gone on to win. And they set themselves up exactly the same way, but in the end, falling short against the Sharks. Season over for the Panthers. Well,
this was the 17th time, as you point out, that they'd been 10 plus behind. Now, that's only from, 26 games. So it was a constant for them. And when they went 18-2 down at the break, you're thinking, well, yeah, look, there might be a comeback. But they're against Cronulla in finals football. And if it is going to catch you out, it's probably going to be in the big games at the end of the year. But, you know, to their credit, Penrith again showed great resilience, great belief, and we said during the commentary that they, once they get 1, they're likely to get 2 and maybe 3, and that's exactly what happened. When they got back to 20 all, they had the momentum, and you just thought, well, maybe here it is again. They've got the wind in their sails. Cronulla side a little bit busted as well. They've got Paul Gallen sitting on the sideline watching, so too Luke Lewis. But again, the Cronulla Sharks are just so good at being able to get it done, getting themselves in front at the end of that 80 minutes.
And it's that experience factor, isn't it, too? You talk about the Gallons. Luke Lewis, which, you know, he's potentially, it was his last game if they'd lost the Cronulla Sharks up against his old club too, and you knock the bloke down, he always gets back up.
Well, he's a leader, and, you know, we see him get nailed by Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, and you know, that embarrasses players. You know, so 2 rucks later, Wonga Blake hits it up, and there's a reply. Now, that's leadership right there. And not only nails Wonga Blake, but he forces an error. Like that, he lost the football there. And poor old Wonga Blake, he must have been sick and tired of Lewis by this stage because he's bundled back into the in-goal area. And again, you know, these are big plays because that's a line dropout. You get the football back, you maintain the pressure, and then he just races onto a lovely pass from Matt Moylan to score out wide. So, you know, these kind of players who've been around, you know, this is 18 seasons now for Luke Lewis. They know what it takes. They know what this is all about. They know where to put themselves, and they know how to react. And what we saw there from Luke Lewis lifts everybody around him.
18-2 down at half-time, as you say. The Panthers had to be first to score in that second half. There was no doubting that. And then the turning point came. The try probably not expected at this stage. Valentine Holmes, slight misjudgment. Nathan Cleary there on the spot to turn the game his side's way.
I don't know about a slight misjudgment. It was a big mistake, this one, because he's got this clearly well covered. And you've just, you know, you just don't take the chance. We see it so often. But the effort from Nathan Cleary is what I loved about this. You know, the determination. He never gave up on it. The ball, you know, it's going dead. Or, well, that's what probably what I was thinking as well.
He needed to be another step to his right, didn't he? If he was really going to be shielded.
No, he needed to be kicking the ball into the 15th row. That's what he needed to be doing, or pushing it over, just because you don't take that chance. But it was Nathan Cleary's determination not to give up that got there. And on the back of that, that was the turning point. That got Penrith back into the game.
Got to give it to him, though. He came out one of the plays of the match right when his team needed it at the death.
How gutsy is this? It's 20 all, and you've just endured not so long ago, you know, coming up with that error. So 20 all, you try for the short restart. And not only try for it, you get it millimetre perfect. It's huge, and it just shows great confidence. You know, he's had a fantastic second half of the season, Valentine Holmes. His form has been great. He made an error, but you know, those kind of games in big moments, they turn things, you know, and that's what finals football is all about. It's about the moments. It's about, you know, getting into the battle, and then you have to win the moments when they present themselves. He created that for himself, so it was gutsy play, and I think the Sharks go in, well, a little bit busted on the weekend, but they go to Melbourne fairly confident because it's a place they've had success.
Yeah, won 4 of their last 5 against the Melbourne Storm. Now, I'll get your tip for that match a little later. Just on the Panthers, before we move to the second sudden death final, this season, is it a success or is it a failure?
It's an interesting question because, you know, obviously they've had a lot of success this year. They played finals football. You know, they've been in the finals 3 of the last 4 years, so they're in good shape. I get a feeling that they actually could have done better. You know, I think the quality of the squad maybe should have seen them through to another game or 2. Like, why not win the premiership this year? You know, when you've got that roster, and I know they had injuries. You know, Dylan Edwards was a big loss, but Watene-Zelezniak comes to fullback. You know, nice coverage there. They lose Dean Farray. Tyrone Peachy, an Origin player, comes into the centres. We've seen some really good young players come through. They've had 6 on debut this year and some good input from the likes of Jack Hetherington and Cade Ellis and these kind of guys. So, yeah, it's mixed feelings with Penrith because I'm a fan. I love the way they play their football. During the first half of the season, I said that they were the best forward pack in the competition, and that included who was coming off the bench. You know, at that stage, I think it was Trent Merrin, Moses Leota, James Tarmo. They had a lot going for them this year, and I just wonder, do they have as much next year? I'd like to think that they will. But as a Penrith fan, I'm a little bit mixed on the way things finished.
It was entertaining, the SFS, that's for sure. ANZ Stadium, that ends on Saturday night, 13-12, the South Sydney Rabbitohs beating St George Illawarra. I would have expected more than 25 points from this match. An absolute beauty going right down to the last moment, Pete.
It did, and you know the Dragons, again, I wonder how their fans feel because for something like 15 rounds they led the competition, they got through to finals football, went up and came up with one of the great victories of the season over Brisbane last week, and came into this game and you know they matched motors with South Sydney, especially in that first 20 minutes. South had a lot of football. Quite a few penalties went their way as well, but the St George Illawarra line, it held firm and put them in really good stead for what was to come. But in the end, just we'll have a look at a big play. But
there are a few big plays in this match.
Yeah, there are, and you don't look back on 80 minutes and just pick one out because there are so many moments that, as I said, you know that. You can either get right or wrong, and that determines the result. But they come up with a poor finish. But Adam Reynolds was fantastic. You know, in tight games like that, there's no greater exponent of getting a 1 point when needed than the number 7.
We saw a rule change earlier this year with players stripping the ball.
Yep.
That it's gone from the fact that if there's ever 2 tacklers at all in that play, that it can't be done. Now, if one falls off and it's back to 1-on-1, the strip can happen. And remarkably, at the death, we saw it used twice as a tactic from both sides.
A perfect example why the rule had to be changed and was crazy in the first place. When a player drops off, as we see there, you know, it becomes a one-on-one battle. And Tyson Frizzell has got every right to steal that football. And again, how much does that turn things? Cameron Murray here on Leeson arm out. Great plays. They're great plays. Because the challenge has gone out in contest, James, through the course of the game. Scrums aren't a contest anymore. You used to be able to rake from the football as marker. You can't do that anymore. So the one-on-one strip was quite an important one in our game in regards to being able to get the football back because a lot of those opportunities had disappeared. So to see 2 at key moments in this game was fantastic. And you know, on the back of that, points were scored, and the play from Murray was huge, especially.
Gifting South Sydney a set of 6 with a minute to go on the clock. St George Illawarra, the last play option. Was it the fact that there was no Gareth Widdop and the experience of him in this team? Was it poor decision-making from Ben Hunt? What do you put it down to for the Dragons?
Look, I don't know. I think basically what we've heard since is that the Dragons tried to win the game with this play. Now, in retrospect, it's not the right play. You know, why Jack de Belin got the football as first receiver, I'm not quite sure. Sometimes it's easier to kick from 2 out, but Ben Hunt decided not to. And you know, the folly of this play, and the coach knows it full well, was that they went short to Kurt Mann, who had traffic in front of him straight away. Now, I said on the Sunday Footy Show that if Ben had have gone to Tim Laffey with the wide ball, like you can see the centre and the winger are in good space there. So if it goes to Laffey, he can go down from that shot another 20 or 30 metres before he gets to the winger who's dropped back for the kick and then sum up the situation. Maybe there's support on the inside. Maybe there is still an overlap with his outside man. If there's not, then Laffey kicks the football and gets the ball down the other end of the field. But if St George Illawarra don't score on that play, what had to happen was that South Sydney got the football close to their own line and had to go the length of the field and might not have got in a position to kick a field goal in that last minute. But to give them the football, and that's basically what it was, 45 metres out with a full set and Adam Reynolds already having kicked 2, you knew. I go back to game 2 in Origin last year. I still haven't seen Jonathan Thurston's sideline conversion to win that game. But when it happened, I knew he was going to... and I felt the same way that when South got the football there, that Adam Reynolds is the best. If you want somebody to get 1 point for you, whether there's blokes in his face, whether he's going sideways, whether he's running backwards, he's going to get that 1 point. So in the end, just poor decision making. Yes, it might have been different if Widdop was there. It could have been a huge play if they'd have scored from it, but they didn't, and they would have been better off going into extra time.
Before I get your tip on the Rabbitohs Roosters and the other prelim final coming up, the Dragons, like the Panthers, should they have gone deeper into finals? Did it get cruelled by injuries?
Again, it's a difficult one, James. Yeah, injuries played its part. You know, Jack DeBell and battled to get out there.
No Paul Vaughan, no Gareth
No
Widdop.
Paul Vaughan, and no Gareth Widdop. And Gareth Widdop, he's their most influential player. So yeah, again, if you take the most influential player out of any team at this end of the season, it has a huge effect. So I will say that was key to it as well. I don't know whether Origin, was too draining or how well they managed that, because I look at a guy like Tyson Frizzell, he was fantastic all the way through. But I think they learn a lot, and they need to, because they put themselves in a great position. Then it wasn't so great. They missed out on the top 4, and then they made a late charge, but it wasn't good enough to win them a premiership.
Okay, Pete. Friday night, Amy Park the scene. The Storm and the Sharks. Melbourne rested. They get 2 big guns back. Will Chambers from suspension. Nelson Asofa Solomona from injury. They got the full crop of players. That fortnight rest. They've got the Sharks, who, as we've said, have got the mocker on them in recent times. But who wins it?
I don't even have to answer it. You've just put forward the scenario. The rest is huge. As I say, I haven't seen Craig Bellamy in the past react the way that he did when his side had earned a week off. He said that they needed it more than ever before. That's good enough for me. All players on deck. I don't care if Chambers hasn't played for 4 or 5 weeks.
Yep.
He comes in and gets the job done. I'm going for both teams that had the rest.
Okay. So you like the Roosters against the Rabbitohs?
I like the Roosters as well. I think that'll be I can't wait for that one, because the atmosphere is going to be fantastic. A lot of people thought this might have been a grand final. Well, it could have been a grand final confrontation. We just get it a week early. Yep. But I'll go the Roosters. And again, really, when I'm trying to weigh these sides up on the weekend, the extra rest has a big role.
Okay. Well, if the final so far are anything to go by, we're in for a cracking weekend.
Let's have 2 more 1-pointers this weekend.
Wouldn't we love it? Thank you, Sterlo.
Cheers, James.
That's Sterlo's wrap for the second or third last time in 2018. Bring it on this weekend. We will see you live from 7 p.m. Amy Park right here on 9. The Storm